For more on that, let's welcome back in commentary editor for the Washington Times and Newsmax contributor Kelly Sadler and National Advisory Board member at Project 21 and principal at Redtail Strategies, Christopher Arps, back with us. Chris, just want to get your take on this. Here's a quote from the president's article, op-ed in the Washington Post, and this is the closest you're going to get to hearing him talking about oil. Quote, its energy resources, he's talking about Saudi Arabia, are vital for mitigating the impact on global supplies of Russia's war in Ukraine. 1,300 words, Chris. By my count, he mentioned the word oil one time. But isn't that really what this trip is probably all about?
That's exactly what this trip is all about. Gas prices are at all-time lows. They have gone down a quarter since the last couple of weeks. But the president is going over to Saudi Arabia with hat in hand, begging the sheiks over there to pump more oil. And they have basically told him to pound sand because during the campaign he called their regime a pariah state. So I think this is just another sad chapter in the Biden presidency where the president is looking reactive instead of proactive, and we're begging Saudi Arabian sheiks and kings to pump more oil when we're sitting under our feet a ocean of oil that we have in this country.
Yeah, Kelly, Chris hit it spot on. Reactive instead of proactive. Yeah. I think it's interesting he wrote this op-ed. It's almost like he felt that he had to explain why he was going. I don't know. I don't recall a lot of presidents writing op-eds. Maybe we just haven't covered it, but it just seems that he's just trying to play cleanup here.
Allison, exactly right. And I was going to say that when I was working for President Trump before his international trips, we do press briefings to lay out what our priorities are, what we want to accomplish. But we never did an op-ed from the president trying to explain why we're taking the trip. Everyone knew why we were going to take the trip and what the purposes of the trip is. He's just so scared of his progressive leftist wing of the party that he has to explain to them. I know I said that Saudi Arabia was a pariah state, and I know they have horrible human rights violations, but this is why we need to do this. And as Rob mentioned, he never mentioned oil, which is the reason why he's going over there. He's going to go over to beg OPEC to produce more in Saudi Arabia, to produce more, to lower gasoline prices here in the United States, rather than unleashing our own American energy, approving pipelines, approving leases to drill, et cetera, et cetera. It looks very weak. It looks very reactive. And this is not a signal of a president who's leading on the world stage. He's merely following.
Yeah, and we've had diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia, Chris, for 91 years now. You can go all the way back to really FDR. And Donald Trump was pivotal with the Abraham Accords in trying to isolate Iran, trying to strengthen our relationship with Israel and with Saudi Arabia. The fact that he did this, though, in the Washington Post, to me, it just seems like maybe the wrong newspaper to publish your op-ed in, because Jamal Khashoggi was the journalist who was lured to Saudi Arabia and let's be honest, tortured, brutally murdered, decapitated. And he was a writer for the Washington Post. Why not do something like this, honestly, in the New York Times or the Boston Globe or any place else but the Washington Post?
Well, maybe it's a fig leaf or a olive branch to Jeff Bezos, since he is the owner of the Washington Post, and they've been feuding publicly. I tell you one other thing that this trip over to Saudi Arabia has pointed out, that the president doesn't have a lot of stamina, and we know that already. This trip was scheduled to be 10 days. But reports are coming out that they don't think the president of the United States is capable of a 10 days overseas trip. So they're just cutting it down to 5 days, I think. Well, that's another aspect of this story that is going to be getting more coverage in the coming days, I think.
Well, and Newsmax we've got a lot of interesting articles up, but this is from the New York Times over the weekend. At 79, Biden is testing the boundaries of age and the presidency. Again, that coming from the New York Times. And then I thought this was brilliant. The AP, there's the New York Times article. Again, it's by Peter Baker in the New York Times. Yeah. That's your source. The AP tweeted out a day ago about gas prices. And I just think that the language is really funny. So the Associated Press, the average U.S. price of regular grade gasoline plunged 19 cents over the last 2 weeks to $4.86 a gallon. By the way, Allison, that's still double what it was Inauguration Day. $2.39 Inauguration Day. Still double, but it plunged. They weren't tweeting like that in May and June when it was skyrocketing to $5 a gallon nationwide.
No. Kelly, just to add to that point, too, because we've heard President Biden blame Putin for this. He's blamed Trump. He's blamed COVID. Now, though, he's blaming Republicans for what's going on.
Well, Republicans under Donald Trump, we were energy dominant. We were exporting. We're a net exporter of energy for the first time in our nation's history. So Republicans know how to get this right. Gas was $2 a gallon. So Republicans, it is not Republicans' fault. Joe Biden is accomplishing this, kind of diminishing, meager diminishment in gas prices by, pumping oil out of our strategic oil reserves. And he's actually selling that oil to places like China, according to press reports last week. But this is how he's, quote unquote, lowering the price. And the price is also coming down because consumers are not driving as much. They have cut back because they can't afford gas prices. And as you guys have mentioned, gas prices are still $2 more expensive than they need to be. And this is solely at the feet of the President Joe Biden and his energy policies.
Yeah, I'm glad gas prices are going down. They are still double what they were Inauguration Day. So they've got a long way to go. Glenn Youngkin, new governor, Kelly, down where you are in the state of Virginia, he has been on the Sunday shows more and more often. And he's just getting, used to his new job there. But a lot of people say Glenn Youngkin could be a candidate for the Republican nomination in 2024. I thought he had some interesting comments yesterday. He was talking about the January 6th committee hearings, which again will pick up this week. And he talked about what really might matter to voters come November the 8th. Take a listen.
So I talked to thousands of Virginians, and the topics they want to talk about is not January 6th. What they want to talk about is runaway inflation, gas prices. They want to talk about crime in their communities. They want to talk about education and the rights of parents to be engaged in their kids' schools. I just fundamentally believe that the media's attention on this, while I think it's important to the media, is really not what voters are focused on.
Kelly, you're the Virginian. Are you going to lose this guy? Is he going to run?
I hope he doesn't. He has to stay in Virginia and right all the wrongs of Ralph Northam and the Democrats here. So I really think that he's a newbie on the national stage. He's getting out his political chops. He's getting out the political message. And I think he's helping other governors in this year's election by laying out what the Republican agenda and platform should be. And he's exactly right. It should be on the economy regarding inflation. It should be giving parents a control over their choice over the children's education. It should be combating, crime and these radicalized DAs who are, who are not prosecuting criminals. This should be the Republican platform. All we can hear and see from the Democrats is it's going to be January 6th, it's going to be abortion, it's going to be gun control. And that, I don't think, is a winning message going into the midterms.
Yeah, Chris, he's an outsider, which a lot of people like, especially over the last few years. We've seen lots of outsiders get elected. But, a lot of people are saying, well, he's been doing media interviews. Maybe this means he's going to run. But actually, I think the opposite. I think this is what exactly he should be doing, is taking advantage of all these media opportunities because he was so prevalent in the media when he got elected. So I don't really know if him doing all these media interviews means he's thinking of a run. What do you think?
Look, I had a chance to interview Glenn Youngkin a couple of years ago when he was running for governor. He is the future of the party. When I watched that CBS interview yesterday with him on their news program, the anchor tried several times to try to pit him against Donald Trump, and he just wasn't going for it. And he was very deft at avoiding those questions. I think he's the future of how you can run as a Republican in a purplish to blue state and be able to still appeal to those voters that may not particularly care for Donald Trump.
If you're waking up watching us right now, no matter what, it always comes back to Donald Trump. Okay, I'm driving home. I was on vacation, visited my parents and the family, and it was terrific. The car ride was like 4 hours with 2 kids under 5, so that was
not
terrific.
Sound terrific.
And I'm listening to Sirius Radio, and I had it on CNN, and they had one of their anchors interviewing, and it's amazing. Henry Kissinger, God bless him, he's 99 years old. He just wrote a book, and this anchor was interviewing him, and this was a question, and I guess Henry Kissinger was deeply involved in the Nixon presidency, and he was there right to the end, so maybe the question makes some sense, but I'm waiting for it. I was like, somehow Donald Trump will be worked into this interview. And the final question was, what was worse, January 6th or Watergate? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, they cannot help themselves. And Henry Kissinger gave a wonderfully eloquent answer and basically deflected, but said that, relatively speaking, Watergate was a whole lot worse for the country in the early 1970s. But it always comes back to Donald Trump. Joe Biden's approval rating, according to a Civics poll out yesterday, is at 30%. 45%. If we're keeping track, Donald Trump, according to Real Clear Politics, is at 44% at this same time in his presidency. Panel, we covered a lot. We'll do it again in just a little bit. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.